harness the power of customer-generated content that is going to be presented by Kaya Watkins. She is the Global Director and Partner Marketing for Flint Group and Ad Farm. So Kaya has spent the last 17 years helping construction and ag equipment dealers grow their businesses through innovative marketing and communication programs. So along with her expertise in strategic communications and direct marketing, plus thousands of miles on the road, connecting with clients, and she has a proven ability to develop multi-channel dealer marketing strategies. So you are in a treat for the presentation that she's going to give us. Also, in her free time, she stays busy wrangling her 2 rescue dogs, brushing up on her leatherworking hobby, which I want to see a little bit of that, and volunteering with Special Olympics, where she serves on the board of directors. So Kaya, thank you so much for being here. The floor is yours.
Great, thank you so much for having me today. So today we're going to jump in and start talking about customer-generated content and how you can leverage this at your dealerships to really gain trust and grow some sales through that kind of deliverable. So what is customer-generated content? Well, ultimately, it's content created by your customers, getting them to promote your brand for you. And with the increase in social media platforms and digital marketing, this has just grown astronomically over the last several years, particularly with Instagram and TikTok. I think it's just changed and shifted that whole platform and how people are using it. Customer-generated content is really important to include in your marketing mix because it's truly authentic and very trustworthy. So customers view it as more reliable and more trustworthy than any messaging that your brand is going to put out. There's a lot of different types of customer-generated content. We're actually going to start focusing just on the reviews, and then we'll dive into some of the other content types here in a few minutes. First, we want to talk about why these reviews are so important. And that first one should really hit it home for everyone in understanding why they need to pay attention. But ultimately, 90% of customers are reading online reviews before making a purchase decision. It seems pretty much everywhere you go these days, there's review options, whether it's Uber, DoorDash, you open your Target app, Nextdoor, everything has ratings and everything has reviews. Used to be mostly just restaurants and then hotels, and then Amazon joined the game. And now everything can be reviewed. So it's really important that you're paying attention to what people are saying about you and that you're leveraging that in a positive way. On the other side of things, 80% of customers have reversed a purchase decision based on a negative review. So it's important to pay attention not just to the good reviews, but also look at what are people saying that's maybe not so positive, and how can you learn from that and get out in front of it and turn that into a positive. And then finally, 72% of consumers trust online reviewers just as much as they would as a recommendation from someone they know personally. So that's where making sure that you're monitoring online is really important, and getting those reviews out there. If people go on and start to research your dealership and they're not seeing any reviews, then they start to wonder what kind of service will they get, what kind of sales support would they get. So ultimately, having reviews makes you look more trustworthy. And I think this next point is really interesting because social proof matters. And we want people around us to think that we are making a good decision, even if they are strangers and we're thinking about those reviews. We want people to think that we're making good decisions. And then reviews, if you capture them right, we'll talk more about this in a little bit, but if you capture them right and leverage them appropriately when you're marketing, they're actually going to make your business more visible by boosting your SEO through your website and through your social spaces. So I mentioned Amazon a little bit before, and I had to throw the dog tax into the presentation today. These are my 2 pups, and they are mostly good dogs, but they are terrors with their toys. And so I've gone through a lot of toys and really rely on reviews to make sure that I'm getting the best out there. And it's not just looking at the star rating, but also diving deeper into what are people saying and looking for keywords and all of that. But I think what Amazon has done is they've taken our expectations, and now we carry that over to everything else. So when I go onto Amazon, I don't expect anything. I won't look at anything less than 4 stars. And because that is so ingrained in how we shop and how we browse and how we consume, that is something that we've taken into our everyday life. So now people's expectations, one, they expect to be able to learn about you from your other customers. And then they also expect to see that 4-star or higher in most cases. If you're under 4-star, you really want to dig into why, what's happening, what is that negative feedback, and how can we take that and turn that into a positive, and how can we win back some of these customers and start getting more positive reviews. When we look at what motivates customers to leave reviews, the number one thing with 81% of people likely or highly likely to leave a review is if they just had an exceptional experience with you. So if you have phenomenal customer service, they walked away really happy, or they're super thrilled with their purchase decision and the equipment's running great for them, they're going to leave a review. The next one I thought was really interesting, though, because that's looking at a negative experience turning positive. And 79% of people who have that situation are likely to leave a review for you. Then it moves into more of the emotion side of things. So if you're a new business and they feel like they want to help you out, or if they feel like you have an undeserved low rating, they're more likely to leave you reviews. But really, if you just focus on those top 2 things and make sure your customers leave with a really positive experience, they're going to be that much more likely to leave a review for you. So how do you get reviews? First of all, you have to ask. If you ask, they are more likely than not going to leave a review for you. In a recent survey, this was actually just done earlier this year, only 19% of these people that were surveyed didn't leave a review after they were being prompted to do so. So if you want these reviews, you can't just expect them to do it. They're not going to seek it out. You need to make it really easy for them and help them find a way to leave reviews for you. The other thing I think that's interesting is most people are being prompted by some of their businesses. Now, this is looking at all consumers, so it's not diving into just the equipment industry. I would guess that 80% of consumers being prompted by businesses to leave a review would drop quite a bit if we looked at just equipment dealers. And that's something that we want to talk about, and we're going to talk through some opportunities here in a moment about how can you incorporate that into a lot of different touch points you have with your customers. So what's driving the review requests, and what's getting people to actually convert into leaving a review? The number one thing is putting it in an email. And that's really easy to do. You can add it to your signature. You can add it into, if you have digital statements going out, put it in your emails there. Set up an automated nurture campaign, a welcome email, but have it in that email so that all they have to do is click on a link. It takes them right to that platform where they can leave a review for you. The next is just in person, having your sales team trained in on how to do that. You can even have business cards with a QR code on it that says, hey, leave me a review, or how did I do? Make it really easy for that customer, again, to not have to seek out and figure out where should I leave the review. So the dealer going to want it on Google, or are they going to want it on Yelp? Or are they going to want it on their website? Take away some of those options and that thinking for them and make it easy through a QR code. Putting it on your invoice, like we mentioned, and then social media is a really great place to do that. And we'll talk about that a little bit more as well, on different ways that you can leverage customer generated content to ultimately drive reviews. So like I said, the very first thing you need to do is you need to ask for that review in order to get it. Welcome packages are a great way to do this. So anytime someone purchases from you guys, they've got you've got a ticket in there, or some side of it, maybe it's a coupon of 10% off and a link to a review. Getting it on your website, asking for feedback on your website, putting QR codes throughout your dealership, or maybe a little hang tag in the cab. There's a lot of different ways that you can incorporate it just through the different touch points to when you think about how your customer is interacting with your equipment, your sales team, your parts counter, Get it on a parts counter mat. So while they're waiting for that parts at the pickup, they can scan it right there and leave you guys a review. So make it really easy, but you've got to make that ask. Also, offering an incentive is a really good way to do it. If you're trying to quickly gather a lot of reviews, maybe it's your first initiative into trying to get reviews. An incentive of maybe 10% off a parts order up to $500 or something like that, but a way to dangle that carrot to get them. It's a great motivator. Plus, that's going to build customer loyalty for future purchases as well. And then automating it is going to make it significantly easier for you as well and your sales team to not have to always be pushing. But setting up a nurture campaign, if you have emails, get that in there so that if they purchase, you follow up 2 weeks, 4 weeks, maybe 2 months out, and just have a little reminder of, hey, we'd love to hear how you feel about the equipment. How was your service? And then finally, it's really important that you engage with the reviews. If you're not answering or responding to reviews, whether they're positive or negative, that's going to be a turnoff for people if they are going to go on and look at your reviews and potentially leave you one. If they feel like you're not paying attention and they're not being heard, they're less likely to leave a review for you. So then moving into some of the other types of customer generated content, the two that are probably most common are going to be images and videos, particularly when we look at how people have changed what they're posting on social media. I'd say over the last 3 years, TikTok has really changed everyone's perception of who they think they are, quite honestly. Everyone is a creator these days, and everyone's trying to get a brand deal. So they're posting reviews, they're posting them pictures of them or videos of them using the products and the job site. They're trying to really make themselves seen, and that's something you can tap into. So looking at social media, the videos there, YouTube is another great place, and then also live streams and then Q&A forums. There's like heavy equipment forums. Reddit is another place that you want to keep an eye on. There are subreddits for all kinds of different things. And a lot of times those are the people that are working day in and day out with your equipment. They're talking to each other. Hey, have you dealt with this? Hey, what do you think of that? That's a really good place to keep an eye out. So how do you capture this customer generated content? There's a lot of different ways. The first thing you want to do is implement a hashtag strategy, because that's going to make it a lot easier for you to find content for your dealership and of your equipment, is if you can search by that hashtag. Now, when you're implementing a hashtag strategy, the first thing you want to think about, obviously you want, hashtag your brand, but then also you want to make them feel like the hashtag is about them. How can they share about what they're doing with your equipment? So it might be something like hashtag paving the future or something like that, where it's not just about your brand, it also incorporates them. Because ultimately that's what customer generated content is. It's about them, it's about your customers and how they use their products and how they can relate to your brand. So making sure you're giving them some of those hashtags as guidance is really important. And it's going to make it easier for you to find their content down the road. And then setting up social listening or different types of alerts will help you find that as well. That way, if you're not proactively searching all the time, you're at least getting an alert or notification that, hey, there's people out there talking about you. There are different tools that are available. Brand Watch, something as simple as a Google alert also can work really well. If you use social scheduling tools like Sprout Social, they have a social listening tool. But what you want to do there is look at what are people saying, what are they posting? Is it content that you can leverage and use, or is it something you need to follow up with and address and respond to? Because you almost need to look at when people are posting pictures or videos of themselves using your equipment or talking about your equipment or your dealership. That's a review right there. It might not be a formal 5 or 4-star review on a review platform, but it really is a different form of review because they're talking about their experience with you in some way or another. So you want to make sure that you're getting ahead of anything that could be negative or leveraging the positive ones as well and looking at how can you build upon those. Another great way to get a lot of content really quickly is to run a contest. So it could be, you want to design it ultimately around getting a photo or a video submission from your audience. And it could be something as simple as show us the oldest loader on your lot, or show us your fleet, show us a picture of your latest project. And there's different things you can do there, and you can have different guidelines around it. And you just want to make sure, though, that you set up your contest properly and that you're following local regulations. But it is a great way to generate sometimes hundreds of submissions. Just make sure that also in the rules that you include that you may use some of those submissions in your promotional material. That way you can use that content that you've captured throughout your social channels and your digital marketing. And then going back to, making the ask, it's really important that you're promoting this like if you're in a contest or if you have a hashtag, that you're promoting that in those key locations. So for example, encourage your fans to use the hashtags by placing it in your Instagram handle or your description rather. Put it in your bio on Facebook, and you have a QR code with clear instructions on it if you have a poster in the dealership. But really make sure that you're promoting that, because if you don't tell them about it, they're not going to know. So going back to the hashtags, the way you can leverage those, and I've just got a John Deere example here, but in any of the social media platforms, you can just go in and search by business name, by hashtag. You can search by different equipment models, or just search by location if you're in a more rural area. And it's going to pull up all of the content that's available. It's going to pull up probably some of your own, but then it's also going to pull up user submitted and user generated content where they've tagged your business or they've talked about your business or your equipment in the captions. So from there, you can scroll through and see what photos are available, click into it, and get more details around what did they say, what's the content in the video, who is the content creator, and then make a decision on if that's something that you want to use or not. And then if you do want to use it, this is probably the most important step, and I think one that can often be overlooked, but it's really important that you gather permission from that creator to use that photo or to incorporate that video into your social spaces. And it doesn't have to be anything fancy. You don't have to have a legal contract. It's as simple as shooting them a DM or commenting on their photo and say, hey, did you take this video? This looks great. Do you mind if we use it on our platforms? Reply with yes for permission. And that's all it takes, but it's really important that you take that step and that they do respond with yes, just to cover yourself legally. There have been different stories that I've seen where a content creator posted about a brand, that brand picked it up and used it in their own marketing or on their own pages. And that content creator then sues them because, oh, you got free advertising out of me. And like I said earlier, everyone wants to make money off of social media now, so they're probably going to be extra careful with that. So just make sure that you're asking for permission to use any of this content before you do. And then also give them credit. So you can see an example here for Caterpillar. They recently did a post where on Instagram, first they asked people for pictures of their pets. And then they took those photos from Instagram and pushed it over to Facebook, and then tagged those creators as well and gave them credit for those photos. And then asked other people, hey, post a picture of your pet. And I think they had 20 some posts with pictures of their pet, in or near cat equipment in just a matter of hours. So once you've got all this user-generated content, the question is, what do you do with it next? The very first thing I would do with it is get it on your website. And it's probably having a page of testimonials, but then also looking at where can you tie it into the products, so that if someone is researching a certain loader or a digger or excavator, that testimonial that is super relevant is going to show right there, or at least the first part of it, so they can click through and learn more from one of your actual customers about why they like that excavator, or what efficiencies and what savings they've seen, whatever that testimonial is going to share. The other advantage of getting on your website, and it's a big one, is it's going to boost your SEO. And the more that you can do that, the easier people are going to find you. Also, some people are out there just getting customer feedback on, cat loaders, and that's going to bring your website up to the top. So getting those testimonials out on your website is going to be really important. And I would say too, if you have testimonials that come through like in a review format, take that copy and do something graphical with it, give it a nice treatment so that it's a little bit more visual. Or if it's a video that someone did, transcribe that. That way, again, you can have a graphic that you can use both on your website and then also through your social spaces. Also, again, if you're making sure that you're watching social media, repost those photos and those videos, share it out on your social pages, and get it across all your platforms where it makes sense. So if it is an Instagram post, when you share it out, make sure you get it scheduled into Facebook as well. Or if it's a TikTok video, that can be shared over on Instagram or Facebook. But really think about how can you best leverage it across all of your platforms. The other thing that I think is a really big opportunity is watching your reviews and customer generated content and following those hashtags and seeing who could potentially be someone you want to have an ongoing relationship, whether it's a full-on influencer or someone maybe you just want to go out and do a formal video testimonial with, or build out a case study on them and how they're using your equipment for their business. And what is the backstory on that? But ultimately look at, especially people who are posting regularly about your equipment or about your dealership, they know what they're doing and they're waiting for you, or they might even reach out to you, but there's probably something there. They've probably got a good following and people paying attention to them. So look at how can you leverage that moving forward. And then finally, make sure you incorporate this messaging into your campaigns just beyond social media too. So as you're looking at your marketing strategy for the year and you build out your campaigns, first identify your objectives and then look at what reviews or testimonials you have that really apply to what you're trying to accomplish with that campaign. So if you're doing an integrated campaign that maybe is a competitive conquest campaign, those are the best ones for testimonials. So if you are a John Deere dealer and you've got a customer that you converted from CAT, that is the best customer and the best testimonial that you can possibly have. So find a way to feature that everywhere. Lead with it in your direct mailer, show a picture of that customer using the new equipment, and then maybe get a quote that you can throw on the back, talking about what they like about the John Deere over that Caterpillar. Same with social media. Again, that is so visible and you can get really targeted when you get into the paid space. So you can target, again, you can target Caterpillar owners with this John Deere testimonial and get really specific and and have messaging that's going to resonate very directly with that potential customer. So look at how can you be smart about that. There's a lot of ways to target that way. Facebook and Instagram have a lot of really smart targeting. And then there's other vendors out there where we could say, I want to target anyone who bought a CAT excavator, at this size in the last 3 to 6 years. And that's where we could serve that messaging up. But that's a really powerful statement if you can talk about a conquest customer to a potential conquest target and get them to help sell that machine for you. And then video is extremely compelling in any of those channels. So whether it's on social media or in digital paid media, doing some YouTube pre-rolls, or even just on your YouTube channel, video is extremely compelling and it's much more real. Just make sure that it doesn't feel too scripted if you're doing video. So when you're getting that user-generated content, and if it's someone that you follow up with to do a little bit more polished work, just make sure it still feels really authentic, because that's an important part of user-generated content. And then the last one is email. I'm actually going to jump to this next slide here. With email, again, this is a place where I think we're seeing more and more people go just because of data. And now you're getting their email addresses. You've got a way to organize and segment. And email is a great way to push out those reviews and the different customer generated content that you're getting. Reviews are a really great thing to push out, and you can set it up in, again, a customer journey and have that timeline built out so that maybe it's 1 to 2 weeks, you're touching them with really relevant testimonials. Again, thinking about that cat customer who you're trying to sell a John Deere to. You can pick testimonials or reviews that speak directly to that customer that are going to talk about the pain points they're experiencing, because the equipment they're in and the equipment you want to get them into. So you can be really segmented, and you can do that based on, again, all the data that you have or the data that's out there that you can leverage to figure out what brand they have and maybe when they bought it, and then what are we trying to get them into, and then send really relevant messaging through the emails. And then really following up with, if you were on the last panel where they're talking about recruitment as a challenge, employee generated content is a really powerful tool to incorporate into your recruitment strategy. Again, it's just so authentic. So if you have job seekers out there looking for their next opportunity, whether it's a tech or someone looking for work on a parts counter or a salesman, they want to see what the real experience is going to be like working there. So having employee generated content is the best way to do that. So a lot of what we've talked about already today can still apply to what you would do with employee generated content. And all the platforms are very much the same, except we throw on LinkedIn and Glassdoor and Indeed and some of those platforms as well, again, where you can see reviews and other kinds of feedback. So how to capture employee generated content is you have to encourage that engagement and make it easy for them, give them ideas. And it might be saying, hey, we're going to grab everyone here at 2:00 today, bring your cameras or bring your phones, and we're going to have a little fun and do it together, but have them give their own authentic responses to whatever your prompts might be. Can also form a team, and that's something we've done here at Flint Group, where we have a team of Flint ambassadors, and they meet every month. They actually met today to talk through what ideas there are, what do we want to focus on each month when we're looking at what kind of content to put out there, what ideas there are, and just kind of bounce things off of each other. But having a team that is more committed to it is going to keep you on track, because if everyone is just kind of, it's an ask you made of everyone, you're less likely to get a lot of engagement. So put a team together. You could also incentivize that. So whether it's free gear or extra, maybe a couple of hours off, something like that, but incentivizing people for providing content to you or posting and tagging you on there is really going to be helpful. One thing you can see on the right-hand side here, I'm just showing the Flint stuff since it's reviews, and I don't want to upset anyone with their other business. So one thing we've done is Glassdoor continues to be of increasingly importance. And with Glassdoor, that's where people can go on and read reviews left by employees, get feedback on benefits, what was the interview process like, all kinds of different things. And so we found that just reminding people like, hey, there's Glassdoor. If you want to go leave a review, that's wonderful. Of course, we're not telling anyone what to write. We just want honest feedback. And it's been really helpful for our team, I think, to just talk about that and make sure people know it's out there. And then as people are seeking out jobs and considering Flint for their next career step, they can go out there and get real feedback from people, pros and cons. And, we always encourage people to leave the truth, and sometimes things are like, yeah, everything's great, but it's really busy or something like that. But again, letting them know where they can leave that feedback is really helpful. And then as the employer, it's really important that you're checking that out, looking at the feedback, responding to the feedback, and then taking that information back to your leadership team and informing how you can make changes or what type of changes need to be implemented. And then how to leverage employee generated content. Again, as you look for it, often they're going to tag you, so you're going to get alerts on your Facebook or your Instagram feeds already. And then the easiest thing to do is just share it right away. So you can see a couple of examples here. Our team is actually really active on Instagram, and I don't think there's a single day that I log in where I'm not seeing something shared from an employee. And just tagging Flint makes it really easy. So if you implement something like this, just make sure that you do talk about that with your employees. Say, hey, make sure you tag us, and then we'll share it out on our spaces. And then that kind of makes the employee feel really good too if you're sharing their content out on your dealer page as well. And then use it in your marketing campaigns. Again, when you're building up recruitment campaigns, likely lots of digital campaigns, featuring real people and real comments is, again, going to make it that much more authentic. And then you can also highlight their expertise. Thinking again at the dealership, you probably have a handful of guys who are out there doing walkarounds or going out on job sites. They are probably taking videos, and I know we're seeing that more and more at dealerships where they have, that key person who's doing the walk around videos. They're probably sharing it to their own page as well. But if you see it on their page or their LinkedIn, make sure that you're sharing that on your pages as well, so that you're highlighting that expertise. All right, and with that, we can open it up for any questions that are coming through.
Wow, thank you so much for this presentation. I think you have I couldn't figure out how to open my camera. I think you have shared very specific action-oriented information that is exactly what we were hoping to achieve. So thanks for that. And yeah, let's jump right into questions. So we have several of them. One, it's about meaning of abbreviations. So in the world of marketing, we use the word a lot, CTA. Can you explain us what that is?
Yes, a CTA is a call to action. So it's if you are trying to get someone to take any kind of action from your marketing, telling them exactly what to do. So if it is a Facebook ad and you're wanting them to apply for a job, that call to action is apply now. Or if you've got a poster with a QR code on there, your call to action is scan this QR code to leave a review. Anything like that, but really just giving direction and then also giving them a way to respond to that ask.
Perfect. Okay, the other one is, how do you encourage employees to leave reviews on Glassdoor without seeming pushy or making it seem fake? Do you ask them multiple times to do it, or just one and then one later as a reminder?
Yeah, it's more the latter, where you're exactly right. You can get too pushy and then it feels very insincere, and maybe the employees feel a little pressured to do it. So I would say, first, some of them may not even know it exists. So just talking about it as a, hey, just so you know, this is available. Or if you have a monthly newsletter that goes out, putting it in there. It doesn't have to be anything too pushy, and it's not something we talk about often. It's something, maybe a couple times a year. We'll remind people that, hey, this is out there. And again, we're probably a little bit more aggressive with it with our ambassador team, because they have raised their hands saying, hey, I want to talk about Flint. I want to be part of the team that's pushing for content and talking about how great Flint is, essentially.
Awesome. Can you explain a little bit more about listening tools?
Yes, so there are quite a few out there. And if you just Google social listening tools, you'll find a few options. But what they do is they essentially crawl the internet and listen for keywords. So BrandWatch is a good example. And we would put keywords in we run it for our clients. So we might have a keyword in for Massey Ferguson and maybe some of the different competitors that they have. And then we'll have different topics that align too. And every morning we just get emails that have a list of, here's every time it was mentioned online, and here's what was said, here's a link to it. And you can set it up for different channels. You can have it around from like a PR perspective, or it could be strictly for social media, but there's a lot of different options there. If you use a tool like Hootsuite or Sprout, any of those, a lot of them have some form of social listening built in, and you can just use that. And again, you'll get alerts anytime someone's talking about you. That way you can join the conversation and again, help correct anything that is coming across negative or thank them for being positive with their comments.
Absolutely. I think you also mentioned Google Alerts.
Yeah, so those are really easy to set up as well. And they work the exact same way. You just put in a keyword that you want to essentially follow. And Google crawls all of the news and all of the postings, really any kind of new content that's added to the internet. And you get an alert the next morning, or you can have it set up at whatever frequency you want. But again, it'll have a link to the article or the comment and a little bit of details around the time and where it came from. And you can click through and see what was said.
Yep. And it's a free tool. So you just Google Alerts, and then it will send you to that site where you can set that up.
Exactly. Yes. Awesome.
Excellent. So you talked about TikTok in the HR panel. We also mentioned TikTok. And could you give us some tips for people that maybe are just thinking about it? They are new to it. They have no idea what to do. Do you have some recommendations on how to get started with TikTok?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is you've got to commit to it. It's, as much as everyone would like to think they're going to go viral overnight, you're not. And so you need to really build up that content, that library of videos, post probably every day or every couple of days. They don't have to be long videos, but make sure you're posting frequently. And then the other thing is engage with other people's content so that you're not just a business on there, but you become a personality. And maybe you've got one or two people that are the face of your TikTok account. But again, searching for hashtags or searching for your brand or your equipment or your industry, and then engaging with that content, engaging with other influencers. Maybe they're going to tag you or talk back, because people watch who their favorites that they're following. They watch who they interact with. If they like videos, if they bookmark videos or save it, those types of things. And then that's also going to influence people's, what we call the FYP, the For You page. It'll influence what kind of content's going to show there and just increase your likelihood of a video really taking off.
Awesome. Okay. So I have a controversial question for agencies about videos. So what does it perform better on social media? Corporate videos that are produced with high quality videos, or spontaneous from the phone? We're in a meeting, we were walking the shop floor and we just create a quick spontaneous video. What is best?
Quick instantaneous videos, because it has that feel of authenticity and it feels more like customer generated content, quite frankly. That's one of the pitfalls of if you try to script something and you're trying to coach people too much on what they're producing, it's going to feel very disingenuous. So we certainly encourage all of our clients to really have a role in creating their content. There's still a place certainly for the polished, produced content, but that's not always on social media. People want more real, authentic content there.
Awesome. We have a lot of questions, which I love it because marketing is my topic too. So we have a few more minutes here. So we have a question about how can you track and measure the impact of your customer-centric marketing efforts, and what are some key metrics to monitor?
It's a great question. And I know in the HR panel, I think it was Rob maybe who mentioned, agencies like to talk about impressions. We'll say we do not like to talk about impressions because you can just buy impressions. They don't really matter. It's just the more you spend, the more impressions you get. So we focus more on engagements and conversions. And what that means is, so if you're on social media, it is how many people are liking your video, how many people are commenting, how many people are sharing, how many people are clicking through on a link you've included. With your website, how many visits are you getting to your website from your activities or from your posts? Are people filling out applications? Are they buying parts online? If we're talking about that in your campaign, Are they filling out a form or downloading an equipment brochure? But what step are they taking that's getting them one step closer to purchase and showing that they are considering your equipment and they're wanting to learn more? So for us, it's not just enough to see the ad. We want them to do something with the ad.
Awesome. Excellent. Okay, now we are going back to employee-generated content in Glassdoor. What do you do about Glassdoor reviews from disgruntled employees?
That is a hard one, because you can't just delete it, right? We have no control over the content on Glassdoor. The best thing you can do is try to respond appropriately, accordingly, not get into a battle with them. They probably left because either they're a bad employee or, I mean, in some way or form, they were a bad employee if they left and are disgruntled. It's not worth fighting over. So really just leave a professional. We appreciate your feedback. We understand, and it's unfortunate you feel this way, something like that. But I think if you focus more on the positive reviews and make sure you're responding to that too, that's about all you can do. If there is a disgruntled review that you feel like is not from an employee, with Glassdoor, you can reach out and challenge that, and they'll consider if it should be taken down or not. If it's threatening or derogatory or something like that, where it's inappropriate, Glassdoor can help take that down too. But I'd say the best way is just to, hug your haters.
For sure. So staying on the not so the negative side of things, not so good things. This other question, it's about customer testimonials, and what are some common mistakes businesses make when trying to run a customer testimonial campaign, and what do you advise to them?
So I think the first thing is keep it authentic. Don't get overly salesy or promotional. It's really about the customer and what they're getting out of your equipment or the value they get out of your team and your dealership. So don't get too promotional. Don't get too scripted, which we've talked about a couple times already today. And then I think also making sure you get permission. That's if you don't do it right, or if you run a contest where you don't say, hey, we're going to use this, you could be left with hundreds of photo submissions that you cannot use in your marketing, or face a little bit of a lawsuit. So those I think are really important. And then going back to our last discussion about the measurements, if you aren't measuring what you're doing, you're not going to know what works, and you're not going to know what to do moving forward. So using that data that you get out of the campaign and making decisions based on the data on what you're going to do next.
Amazing.